All
Oh,
right, here we go.
okay. Got it.
All right, we are back for another episode on the Collecting the Precious podcast. As you can see, no Jim. It's Tolkien Reading Day 2023 when we're recording this. So he's doing something with some family and some friends, having a good old time. I decided to rope another friend of mine from Weta Workshop to come on and talk to us about just a myriad of different things. Mr. Leonard Ellis has joined us. Uh, as always with the Weta folk, I've been able to, you know, steal their time at Comic Con over the years. Um, Leonard, will you? The floor is yours, sir, to introduce yourself to the masses.
Oh, thanks, Josh. Well, my name's Leonard, and I'm an artist at Weta Workshop. I'm also team leader of the collectibles manufacturing department, so I look after all the collectibles that come through the workshop. What else? It's a beautiful sunny day here in Wellington. Oh, sunny Sunday afternoon in Wellington. The kids are up at the school at a school fair, so I've just ducked down to have a chat with you.
Awesome.
And yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you for joining us. And as I've told him a couple of times he's joined us. I know it's the time exchange and everything. It's a
Yeah.
unique experience. So I always appreciate being able to steal you guys' time on weekend. Um, so you obviously with what we when you told us that your new position now, that's a new position from the last time you and I talked a couple years ago at Comic Con, right? You
No. I've been doing. I've been team leader since I think 2016.
okay.
So it's yeah. It's not a new position.
Okay.
The names may change.
Okay.
As you know, but yeah, it's still essentially the same position.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So one of the things we kind of talked about real quick before we got started was Hobbit Holes and how obviously popular those are with the fan base
Mm.
because of their size, because of their ability and such. Um, let's see how let me look at the question. Let me make sure I word this correctly. Uh, they wanted to make sure you yourself are still working on Hobbit Holes because apparently on Hobbit Hole number 33, your name was not on it, and they were concerned
Yes.
you were not working on Hobbit Holes anymore.
Oh no. That was like I raised an eyebrow with that one, but it's like sometimes the names get misplaced on the base. But I definitely worked on that one. It was like the one time I was a little grumpy with my name not being on something. Was the first big collectible I did, which is called Barradeau, and they didn't stick my name on. I was like, huh, well. But
Oh,
yes, no, that one.
great.
It's yeah, yeah, I did a bit of work on that one. But yeah, with the Hobbit Holes, I'm definitely still working on them. I have actually just sent one to molding last week, a new one. It's another one of the little smaller ones with a little accent, the little
Okay, nice.
base element, which is really enjoy those. They get such a good reception, those ones. Um, and uh, and I enjoy doing them too because I've got all these Hobbit Hole sculpts in a detail in my office. So that's the clay sculpts because when they come out of the clay, out of the silicon, sorry, I stick them back together as best I can, and so it's cool having the little
Are you
display
building
pieces.
your own Hobbits and doing that though? Are
Uh,
you creating it on your own?
no, no. They just all nicely displayed there because we used to have the big, like the Hobbiton in the I think in the Thunderbirds tour space.
Hmm.
But they're busy redoing the tour spaces at Weta, so that Thunderbird tour space doesn't exist anymore as it was, and I think unfortunately the Hobbiton display has been packed up. That cool one that Steve Saunders worked on.
Oh,
So that's a bit unfortunate because I don't even know if we ever got a bag end on the top of that one. I think we had the little bag end, but not the new
the new big one.
the big one that we made. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
that was an amazing one to make too. Yeah.
let me find there. While we're on the subject of uh, Hobbit Holes, let me make sure this is. Um, so obviously, as you guys add Hobbit holes and stuff, the Hobbiton, um, the map, the art print map that you guys did,
Yep.
is that something? I mean, if you can't answer this, okay. But I'm just is that something that may get like a version 2 as you add more hobbit holes and stuff? I mean, is that something that is worth doing a version 2 of, or is it, or does it already have like all the stuff that you plan on? You guys kind of, it's already, it was made with the thinking of, hey, we may do this hole, this hole, this
Yeah.
hole, this hole, this hole, or is it
Yeah.
something that was made for what was done at the time, and a version 2 could possibly be done down the road, since you guys have, I'm sure, probably added a ton of hobbit holes since that map came
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's more down to the guys in consumer products offices as they deal with the art prints. And Dan, of course, Dan Falconer uh, works on all the art prints and that. So I'm sure that's something in the back of their minds, especially because then, of course, Hobbiton have, like on their website, they said like, look, there's something awesome coming. So who knows what they're doing? And then,
Right.
you know, if we're selling the map at Hobbiton, you kind of want to have it current as well with what they're doing.
And I couldn't remember all the stuff that was on the print, because I mean, that's one piece that I don't personally own. So when I saw that question, it's actually an interesting deal, because I didn't know like how up to date it was. Like I said, compared to when it was done, because that's been a while ago. I think that print came out, and obviously there's been multiple Hobbit holes come out since then. So I wasn't sure like it was like what Hobbiton looked like, with the actual, place that you can go visit, which I think it's actually just as cool as could be, that you can actually visit that place. But,
Yeah.
or if it was done based on like what the products that had been created at the time. So I think that's cool. That I think will make people happy, because I know people that on the various fan groups and stuff that I participate in, they were, they like to have that kind of as like a roadmap, with their collection. So obviously, they want an updated print on that, and then obviously, can you talk about or elaborate more on like what some like I don't want to, I'm trying to be careful with wording, with rabbit holes and stuff that there are, that obviously it's a very popular product. It's not something that's stopping anytime soon. Because I mean, obviously that's what people collect. So, that's definitely something that's going to keep going for a while.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's what 40 something Hobbit Holes, 44, Farmer Maggot's house, and then all the rest of it. And we've got full intention, unless I get a memo on Monday morning, of doing them all, because it's and one of our production managers came in just at the end of last week as I was sending one to molding, saying that, we're going to action some new Hobbit Holes. So yeah, they're coming thick and fast. Well, as I can fit them in, I should say. Because looking after a team is a whole different job, while trying to be an artist as well. So it's
I'm sure you're pulled on both ends with that.
Oh, it is, and though I do appreciate on something like Helm's Deep, where I do need a bit of time, the production managers are great. They kind of like put up a barrier around me when it's getting close to crunch time, and we're just trying to really, just sort out my timing and that sort of thing, so I can get some good focus time. Because obviously that's you want to put your headphones on and just knuckle down into the work. And it gets a little, it kind of ruins the workflow when you get a lot of interruptions and you're trying to, you're like, this has to be out, this has to be, in for review in the next, couple of days. And it's like, get it done.
I get it from a teaching perspective. When I'm trying to write lesson plans, people are like, "Hey, we need you to do that." I'm like, "Do you understand? I'm trying to get something ready for a class here." Yeah, I get there. Yeah. Something you said just a second ago, and about with the bagging, that made me think about this. Obviously, you guys took the bag end that was done several years ago with the little rims on the back, and then obviously have done a much obviously larger, obviously been deep, the Argonauts, so on and so forth. Would it be possible, or is it something that do you think that, or do you think that could happen? I don't want to put, obviously, I don't want to put it, do anything crazy, but taking maybe some of the most popular Hobbit holes that you guys know have sold really well. Do you think there's a chance of taking maybe some of those really popular ones and doing bigger versions? Is that something that or do you think that type of product might not sell as well? Because I mean, bag end is bag end. Obviously, those are massive, famous locations that we've seen on screen. We've read about in the books. Hobbit Hole, it was Hobbit Hole 33 because it was in the question, and I don't remember which one. So don't yell at me in the comments if I don't know the Hobbit Holes. I'm sorry. But Hobbit Hole 33, I don't know how popular that one may or may not end up being. Do you think that's a crazy idea to maybe take some of these really popular Hobbit holes and do bigger versions with that? I don't know that I mean.
So you mean when you say bigger version in the same scale?
So like
just
take them, take
the windows and
small, but take them and then I mean, I wouldn't go and do crazy like make it massive like how Big Bag End turned out.
Yeah.
But maybe take it and take one of them and the size of the original Bag End. That's still a decent sizable piece. And maybe take the Hobbit holes and maybe make it like that size. That's not that much bigger, but that might be, I don't know, that seemed that we were talking about scaling things up, and I wonder if that's even something that would be, I don't even know I don't know.
If it's if we're talking a different scale, then that's obviously a new line, but then trying to maintain essentially having the same door size.
Right.
That's sort of our benchmark for the Hobbit holes is the door size.
Gotcha.
Because the Hobbit holes at Hobbiton, they've got all different size doors. So yeah, and that actually could be something. Obviously, we try and fit them in to make them as affordable. But the intention when we started off the Hobbit holes was we wanted something that's going to look pretty, like the thing that you get a lot of comments about is the flowers and the trees and the green and the brightness and all that. And we wanted to have that in something that a tourist could get and pop in their bag. But obviously, they're not going to do that with bag end. You need a very big bag. But that's why we made the smaller, just the door of bag end, so that those people could collect, at least just have a bag end for the piece. But I don't know, it would be cool. I mean, I love anything to do with Hobbiton. It's one of my favorite places in New Zealand, and it's who knows? It's potentially something we could look at. It's
and I don't know how much an idea that would even be, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I know the Hobbit holes are popular, and the reasons that they're popular make sense. Like you said, someone who's traveling to New Zealand can put one of those in their bag, in their suitcase, no problem. As someone who's tried to bring collectibles home from Comic-Con many times, it does. FedEx is your friend. So they overcharge the heck out of getting stuff back.
Yeah.
Because getting stuff in your suitcase is rough. So I don't know. I just thought, obviously, like I said, new line. What's the cost going to be? Are those locations popular enough to, generate enough sales to make it worth it? Blah 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 blah. I don't know. That was just one of those thoughts that popped in my head while we were talking. But that would be kind of interesting. So I just wanted to.
But just on that, Josh, I mean, one of the cool things that I found that they've done at Hobbiton is they've given all the hobbits careers, and which I know rubs some people up the wrong way because it's not in the Lord of the Rings. In the Lord of the Rings, they pretty much had Hobbit holes, for the long shot.
Right.
But when you're walking around Hobbiton, you've got the carpenter, you've got the cheese maker, you've got the beer maker, the brewer. You've got the wine guy down, at the vegetable gardens. He's got ales or something. So that could be a cool thing as well to elaborate on the Hobbit holes as potentially, and I know it is going to be more with looking at Hobbit, the current Hobbiton movie set.
Right.
But that's one of the things that I found to be really interesting is just how they're doing that, because otherwise your Hobbit hole is just a, you've got a chair in the front or something, or a little table with a block of cheese on it and that sort of thing. Whereas, like they've got the one Hobbit hole where the carpenter was great. And it was really cool when we were walking around there. One of the gardeners like called me and said, "You got to come see this." And like on top of the door frame, but under the eaves was a little bird's nest, and like a little bird in there. And I was like, "Oh, when I do that Hobbit hole, I'm putting that bird's nest in there." And it's just little things like that.
Right.
I can show the photo as I zoomed up on my old cell phone. To like as best as I could to find it, just to show that that bird's nest exists at Hobbiton. And so that's a really, it's a cool thing for me. Is just like, what's this Hobbit doing now? And just seeing all the stuff around there. So it's,
I haven't seen anybody, at least on the places I frequent. I'll put it that way, because I mean, obviously, there's the internet is wide, and a lot of opinions are out there. But I've never seen anybody complain about, the Hobbit hole having a kind of a theme for what the person's job is. Otherwise, how are you going to differentiate when? I mean, just having them listed on the website, Hobbit hole number 5, Hobbit hole number 6. I mean,
well, that's it.
It's easy to there's stuff that goes with it that makes sense. So I don't know. To me, it makes sense.
So one of them was like, so we do have the Hobbit hole doors change color. So we've had a few, things where it's like, oh, they've used this color door. Yay, they've used that color door. So we know that sort of thing matters. But it also matters to someone who's gone to the movie set and they've taken a picture of themselves outside a Hobbit hole, and they're like, "That's awesome! Like, look, it's cool." And then they go into the gift shop, and boom, there's that Hobbit hole, same color door, and they can have their photo, and the little Hobbit hole next to them,
right?
And like on their mantelpiece, and so that's a cool thing, because it's like one of the ones that we did change. We got a bit of stick for. I know it was the Hobbit hole 1920, and that one was, I'm going to get roasted for this. I can't remember what the original one was, but he's now a fish smoker, and so it's always had eels or something hanging up there. So we did the eels and the fish hanging up there, and there was a bit of disdain for that one. But it was like as it was, and we thought it looked really cool, and I think it was. I think we deliberate on that stuff a lot. It's like, what are we going to do? Which door color are we going to use, and that. So it's
how often have you
we
changed the door colors and stuff from maybe what's out there on the actual place that people can visit? Have you guys had to do that a bunch? Because I'm gonna be honest, we're in an area of the collectibles. I mean, I have several Hobbit holes, but this is not the area of Weta Workshop collectibles that I'm versed in, because I know like Minwin from the Shadow and Flame and stuff. That's one of the areas where she really collects, and so there's people out there like that are like, that's their baby, and they're really, and they'll know they know all those details. I'm like, to me, it's great, because I'm going, I don't know at all the color changes and stuff, and so how often does that happen where you guys have to do stuff like that?
Well, it doesn't, like, we don't change, like, once we've made the Hobbit hole, then that's generally what it's set, because it's gone to the factory. But I think it's like Hobbit hole number 35. When we did it, they had basic careers in, they were fledgling entrepreneurs at Hobbiton.
Right.
And so it was like that at number, I'm pretty sure it's 35. But we just had a few like dying bats out there because they were dying. We didn't, at the time, we were very much trying to do them as single sculpts, out of one mold and that sort of thing, which we've changed a bit now since. But and then they changed the door color on that one, I'm pretty sure, because we had it more of a turquoisey blue. And I think they've changed it since. And I'm like, prefer the old door color, as I'm walking around. And it does kind of mess you up, because you get used to some of the door colors, and then you'll look at a Hobbit hole and go, we have done that one. But it's just because change the door color on some of them. So it's it is a small thing. And if there's a hobbit hole in shot in the film, like it's a definite background thing, then obviously we go like that's where the deliberations really start happening. It's like, do we go with faithful to the movie? Do we go with what's in Hobbiton, which looks cooler? When in a lineup of them, are we going to have too many yellow doors or too many red doors or something? So it's that's the sort of thing we when we first started, we did it right. We're going to do Sam's house, yellow door. Next one, we're going to have to do a red door. Next one, we're going to have to do a blue door. Next one, turquoise door. Next one, I can't remember which one it was. So it was, we've done one recently, which was, I'm trying to think. I don't know if it's been released yet, but it can't be far off. So I might. Anyway, that'll be close. But like, there was one that had quite a weathered door, so it was wooden, which looked really cool. And I'm just trying to think now. I can't remember. I'm trying to think of the paint master, whether we painted the door as it is painted in some shots, or it had this just cool wooden, like all the paint's been scraped off, which looked really cool. It just made it look a bit more earthy. I know they were about the bright colored doors in that, but there was something about that one. So I guess it is a hot topic for us as well, because it's of the aesthetics of the collected whole.
Right.
We want it to look cool. Because if someone's going to only buy 2 Hobbit holes, you don't want to give them the choice of yellow door or yellow door. We want, we kind of want to spread the paint colors around for it. But so the one that I've just completed at the moment has 2 different color doors, and the camp's a little bit divided as to which one we're going to go for, because the way I've sculpted it is a little bit more towards what it is currently dressed as at Hobbiton. But a lot of the pictures we've got, is the way it just kind of sinks into its little alcove in the hill with a certain colored door. Not going to give anything away, because there are people like Dawn who will, I just say one colored door and she'll know, an option of 3 that it's going to be.
Well, that's why like with her, I know that's like her, her baby. She's like really, obviously that's the area where I think watching her post, she's obviously very passionate about. And I've seen her with when Daniel would post in his thread and kind of tease about some of the Hobbit holes, and he'd say it, just a couple of words, and she'd be like, "Yeah, that's number 43," and that's like, I mean, so she'll nails it. So I don't blame you for being very careful, because she'll watch this and she's gonna go, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. Then we got to get on the phone to Hobbit and be like, can you please put a wine barrel in front of this place, or put a beehive in front of this one? We need it stat.
Someone's installed a beehive tomorrow.
Yeah. So it's we need pictures, but it's crazy, because whenever my parents, they live near Hobbiton, and just a few hours drive away. And they go there whenever they've got friends over, and my dad knows he's on a standing mission to take pictures. It's and so whenever I see him, then I get a download of some of the pictures. They haven't been in a few months now, but it's really cool. Just getting the current pictures of what's around.
Do they change the stuff out there often enough that it makes it? Has it ever? Okay, how about this question? This would be interesting. Have they ever changed something out there after you guys made the Hobbit hole, and now number 25 does not look like the number 25 that you guys made the collection? Have they done that to you a few times?
I think it's more just with the dressing. I don't know if I would honestly have to go through with the pictures of the ones we've done and think about it. But it's so they did change 35. It's now got a nice awning, and I think it might be a cheesemonger or something like that. I can't remember what one that is, but they've changed the career of that one. So that's what I would love to redo, because now it looks beautiful with this nice awning, and we do have the option of using an extra mold. So which is why we actually made that mid-base size, which usually comes with something like a tree, because on the bigger one, which is number, I think, 23, that one is that's all in one, but it's a bigger size. And then we've got the smallest, I guess the number 2 size, which is like what most of them are, and then the one between, which usually comes with a tree, or the awning is in number. Oh, it's right on the end of that section of road, and I can't remember what number it is, but it's got that beautiful awning. I'm not even going to guess. And yeah, so they do, I guess, change them in that, but it's it kind of keeps it interesting for, I guess, repeat customers at Hobbiton, as it changes. Yeah, because it's, for me, it's just, when Dan and I went up, and a few of the other Weta guys, we went up to do the shoot of Bag End. It was just it was one of those. I don't think what event was. Excuse my mumbling, but it was some Hobbit Day or something. But they had closed Hobbiton. There was one tour early morning. This is like post-COVID. Like, I think Auckland may have still been in lockdown or something like that. It was just opening up, but there was like one tour, and then they closed it to prep for this, for the movie. I mean, for the event that night, like the feast and everything. And so Tom, team leader video of the video guys, gave me one of his cameras, and the two of us had the entire Hobbiton to ourselves, apart from a few gardeners busy doing their things. And so I just walked around with, and it's just amazing, because normally there's like a line of tourists walking over there. Like, you take a picture, it's a line of tourists, and there's a line of tourists there, and then, they just, everyone's in, and it looks, the place keeps the place animated. But just walking around there, and I thought this really cool video that I took on my phone. Just when I was just looking up at Bag End, and then the frogs are busy chirping in the pond, because I was down near the vegetable garden, and then the birds, and it was just like, this
really
is amazing.
To visit that place. I mean, obviously, getting to New Zealand, obviously, not cheap trip from the United States.
No.
Just would be not cheap for you guys to hear, for all that matter. But yeah, I'm always jealous when I see people taking pictures of Hobbiton, because it looks peaceful, very beautiful look. So the other day, kind of not a similar situation, but I had to go to a tech conference for the coding class I teach, and the train station in Kansas City. I got there. I had to get early. That's where we're taking off from. We're riding the rail car up to a couple of the places that we visited. They're so early, like one of the only people actually coming in on the train, and to walk around inside the train station with basically nobody there. It was kind of like that. You're just like architecture and taking it all in. So yeah, I get that. When you have the opportunity to kind of look at something like that, you really notice things, you hear little details, you pick up on things, and so yeah, I get that. And for for you, for obviously having worked on so many of these, I mean, I think that kind of a situation, I would imagine, gives you a greater ability to really appreciate everything you're getting to work on without it having to actually be work in that moment.
Yeah. Just in response to your earlier question, I mean, that was one of the things, was that we would I was walking around, I was going, oh, this is an awesome looking Hobbit Hole, and I'd take a whole ton of reference pictures of it. But just the way the trees had, grown, and they had done the gardening around the place, it looked so different from when we sculpted it. And they may have had some dressing in the front or something like that. But like, there were a few Hobbit Holes which they were a bit unrecognizable from that point of view. And you just have, it's an organic place. Things are growing. Trees are, they're taking trees out, they're putting new trees in, and all that. And so that's how, I think that's one of the biggest changes that you get as you're going around there, because it's constantly growing.
Well, so because of the constant changes, would that lead to the possibility of, going back and revisiting a Hobbit?
I'd love to.
That it looked like this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Now it looks like this because awning changes, plants, other little goodies that added outside. Does that happening? Because I mean, obviously, when you get all the Hobbit Holes done, you've done them all. where do you go? That leads into either doing some of them bigger, a little slightly bigger scale, or do you go back and redo Hobbit Hole
Well,
5 because they've made enough changes. Nature has made enough
yeah.
changes that it would warrant revisiting Hobbit Hole number 5 because this has happened and this has happened and this has happened and this has happened. Is that something
I would.
that is out of bounds that you guys don't want to, because I'm thinking
Yeah.
collectively you don't want to redo stuff and upset fans because they did this one, now they're redoing it,
Yeah.
a year later. But is it one of those, because they're open and things have changed enough? Do you think that that's something that would be on the table in the future, maybe?
I would hope so, because it's. I mean, I do look at some of them, and I would love to revisit them. Just add that little bit more nuances and just a bit of difference, because it's. I don't know if we'd ever do that before we had gone through the entire line,
Right.
and it wasn't really the motivation when I put forward the holiday Hobbit Holes.
Which those
Ho, ho,
are
ho. Yeah, I'm just gutted we haven't been able. We did so when we started them, we were given a little free range to try them out, but we were unfortunately asked to stop making them because they weren't in keeping with the aesthetic of Hobbit, of the Lord of the Rings, and that. And we were like, I know that Professor Tolkien did write some letters from Santa, but yeah, I mean, just doing those was a fantastic. And like, my main thing was like, I really wanted to do a Christmas village of Hobbiton. It has snowed in Hobbiton. It's I'm pretty sure, because Dan was we were talking about that a while back, and Dan was like, yeah, it snowed sometime, or someone mentioned it. But it's I really, because I'm a bit of a sucker for that sort of thing. I enjoy those little Christmas villages and that, and I wanted to have something where at Christmas time you could swap them out. But so I would love to do more of them. But
yeah, that's cool. I like those. I mean, I'm not like we have and my mom wanted. That's one of the things she kind of likes us to grab at Comic when my dad and I come. Is the Hobbit Holes, because they're small, they're cute, they don't take up a bunch of space, yada yada, all the things.
Yeah, all that.
She really likes the themed ones. She liked because it would they were kind of cute. They added a little something. I really like the Christmas one. I love Christmas, but I'm not a fan of Halloween. My friends know I hate my least favorite holiday is 2 days after. I hate Halloween, but I love that Halloween themed one because it's fun, and I mean, there's always a killjoy killing somebody's fun somewhere. So.
Yeah, and that was a fun one. I mean, it's growing in New Zealand. Obviously, with the kids are all about doing the rating with their pillowcase full of chocolate and stuff that they aim to get. But it's it's getting bigger here, and there are a few streets that do it. But also, that was just part of the fun of it. Like, if we could do a couple of different ones, those are the ones that came to mind. I think I proposed it around about Halloween.
Right.
That's like when the idea sort of comes. It's like, what if we were to do this? And I kind of got a raised eyebrow from our then manager, but gave it a shot, and it worked. And it was one of those things where we drew this list. Okay, all the Halloween, the classic Halloween tropes, write them down. Christmas, write them down. All right, if we're going to continue the line, we want to throw everything into one Hobbit hole, so we can space them out. And then Dan did a whole ton of concepts. So there's like a whole lot of other ones concepted. And we just haven't got the chance to do them. So hopefully one day, because I certainly want more of them. It's
I think, like I said, it allows for people to change up displays a little bit. And I think too it would be neat to have I'm thinking from just what it would look like visually. To have Hobbiton normally, and then if you guys ever got a chance to actually keep winter Hobbiton, because I don't know what winter's like down there. I mean, I know here we get snow, ice, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah.
But it would be neat to see Hobbiton because they had to have had winter and Middle Earth. I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
so there's areas where where Tolkien clearly states how they got very cold there.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine those were the only places. So winter had to come to Hobbiton at some point. It would be kind of
Yeah.
neat to see some of those Hobbit holes uh, with snow and stuff. And I know the Hobbit hole collectors are going, please stop. I have enough money in my bank account for this.
Yeah. No, it's maybe I still live in hope that one day we'll get to do a few more of them because it's yeah, I'm a sucker for anything, Hobbiton. So it's
So
yeah.
speaking of environments, let's roll into one of the things I want to talk about with like Helm
Yeah.
and just kind of the process that went into that. Obviously, it's quite a bit bigger. I mean,
Yeah.
than the original. What was the process? I guess is it like in doing that environment, making it larger. I mean, obviously, you have the original that has the blown out wall. Um, as everybody's well aware, it turned out very gray.
Yeah.
And uh, was that what was the process like in doing Helm's Deep, kind of knowing, just in general, but also look through the lens a little bit of that the last one looks, it's a beautiful environment, but because of the paint, that's, obviously kind of like comes up a little bit.
Yeah.
Was there pressure in making sure that this one, looks just absolutely amazing because it's bigger, it's obviously more expensive, it's more detailed, all that kind of stuff? What was that process like with Steve?
Yeah. So when we started, it was like, what size are we going to do? And the production managers then because they're the ones who kick it off. They say, we want to make Helm's Deep. We want it to fit into, sorry, it's an airplane flying over. We live on the flight path. There's we wanted to fit into this budget range, and then judging by the stuff that we've kind of made in the last couple of years, they then figure out, okay, it can be this big, because the last collectible we made at that size cost approximately that much, because they have a budget line,
Right.
and so they go like, right, so we kind of want this sort of volume, so we go, okay. So then the rocks, all the castle of Helm's Deep, I built that digitally.
Okay.
So we didn't have a set size initially, like as in an absolute, this is how big it has to be. It was, we had a approximate base size that we were going to go for. I'm not sure if it's one of our previous bases. It may have been maybe the Smaug or something. I can't remember, but which base it was.
Somebody did say, I think it's what size base. I want to say Smaug, maybe, yeah, or Ribbon.
I think it was the Smaug, but I'm just trying to think now if it had an engraving on it, because I'm not sure that Smaug had engraving. But it's about that size, and of the big the Smaug and the gold. And yeah, so then when I so then I started building it digitally. Like, we had some great plans that I could then build off. And then once I had just a base of the castle, we then printed those out in a whole of different sizes, and then sort of like a front view and a top view. So we had this really weird looking three-dimensional thing out of flat paper, and then we figured out what size we want, because we wanted to have it so that we could maximize the castle size if our base is this big,
right?
But also realizing full well that the area behind the deeping wall had to be displayed as well, but also knowing that extends quite a bit further back, depending on which reference you're looking at, because they made 3 or 4 of these different things, and they all got different sizes
right
back. So that was so we decided. So we decided we'd foreshorten that a bit and reduce that size so we can maximize the castle size. Because for us, Helm's Deep is more about the fortress itself. It's not about necessarily so much the mountains that are a few kilometers behind. They're nice to have for a collectible. But then we also decided we want to have the interior if we could. So some of the caves and a lot of the stuff that wasn't shown, just like we racking our brains, like, we're sure that there was reference pictures of this or some pictures in that. And so some of the interiors were based off, I'm not sure it was Alan Lee or John Howe's images. So we did some of the references, and Adam Middleton did he did the cutaway. and he had poured long and hard over doing his research in that, and he followed the sketches quite closely as well. So we incorporate some of that as well, and so we kind of just have a lot of paper, and we just try and figure out what size we're going to have, and we kind of then get that done. Sometimes we do test prints, but in this case, I just carried on working on the digital castle.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go.
So when you're talking about like, obviously, there's different photos, there's different bits and pieces that show like the. Are you talking about like there's different scale for like how long the wall was, like the gap between each of the windows, and so depending on what shot we're seeing on screen, we're actually there's different models being used. So if you really analyzed it, you could actually come up with like different measurements within the movie, even.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So that's like
okay, so that's what. Okay, so this what drives me crazy with sometimes with collectors. Like in Helm's Deep is a perfect example. Like people were talking about like the size of window measurements and stuff, and like getting kind of picky about the size. So that to me that makes perfect sense. So do you when doing that, does that make how hard does that make your job when you have that many different reference materials with that different? You just basically split the difference on like in this shot it's 3 feet, and in this shot it's 5 feet, and this shot it's 7 feet. You just say and split the
we could it's something that I learned when I was doing Minas Tirith. All right. Those towers go all over the place. That tall tower will be in the next shot that's down there, and that tall tower doesn't exist in that one over there. And it was just ridiculous. So you kind of have to choose your beauty shot.
Right.
Choose a shot from the film that's going to try and be it. And we know then that that's going to be, that ligature or that, quarter scale or full scale setting and that. So we try and, lock it off like that. But then, stuff does move around. And as you're then using all the different reference, sometimes you're modeling it using that reference, which is better. It's still Helm's Deep. It's still, but like there's shots of the deeping wall, and I can't remember which scale it was, but it was really short. I was like, oh, well, that looks wrong, so I'm not going to use that. But it was just may have been from when in the quarry around down the road there. They obviously couldn't have the full deeping wall, so they had it, just built for shots. But still, it was built, and it was just too short. Different heights is like, they get different bricks. But the thing was, they were relatively consistent between the ligatures and the sets. It was actually amazing when you look at them. It's like how they transpose the detail between the two. So it's but it's like when you're modeling things, it's like it's always, as you're modeling, you may adjust something and not adjust it back to fit with that shot, and so you get things different heights and everything like that. But sometimes you just make mistakes. It happens. It's but it's we do try and like maintain consistency, at least with some shots, because that's what often the collectors will be referencing. That. But then there's something like the area behind the deeping wall, which I know goes way further back, but if we were to make it go further back, then the castle's going to get a whole lot smaller, and suddenly you've got something almost the same, or just a little bit bigger than the previous collectible. And we wanted to make it as big as we could, while still having then some of the bits behind, which didn't, are there in the movie. And I would have loved to have, explored that more. But we put a few little rooms and that sort of thing in there, of course, with the lights and.
I think it was fantastic myself. I mean, it's one of the pieces that I have on order myself, because, and I have the original. But when this one came up, I was like, it just looks amazing. It's at a slightly bigger scale. How close though, or was it close at all? Did you guys come to making it a larger version, but it had the walls blown out, or was the idea the whole time, let's do kind of like with Orthanc, like Orthanc is after Saruman has ruined the whole thing, all that. and then the new one was before. Was it close to becoming, having the wall blown out, or was the decision always going to be we're going to do before the Urukai blow the wall up so we can show what it looked like in all its beauty before it was.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we went with it, because it was very much, we've got the one with the destroyed wall, so let's make one with a fixed wall.
Okay.
And the way that I saw it, it's pretty clean in there. I imagine there's like one guy, a couple of guys who just look after the place, who just unlock the doors when the troops come. So it's a relatively clean environment. There's not a whole lot of weapons all over the place, or fires or anything. It's like there's no one really living there at the moment, which is, it's a little bit sad from a populating point of view, but also it makes it more achievable from a collectible point of view, because each time someone's got to pick up a paintbrush, it costs money to add an application of paint.
Right.
So that's another thing that we have to take into consideration, is how much it's going to cost to manufacture this in the end. But as far as the deeping wall being one that was just we've had it blown up. Let's just make it as it is in all its glory. When there's some theme music playing, the Ride of the Helm or whatever, and it's there's Helm's Deep. We wanted it to have its the castle to respect it in all its glory before it just got absolutely wasted.
And that makes sense that you guys would do, because like I said, you guys did that with Orthe. It also helps get away from the concern, and like I talked about earlier, people being upset that a collectible has been essentially remade. Because if you blew it all out, it would be essentially just a larger version of the original. Obviously, I think the paint on this is going to be absolutely fantastic. Obviously, some of the gray issues that aren't original, but it's a really cool piece. I'm glad you. I want to have you elaborate on like the process of making that, because I know that's been a stickler in a thread on the claim, talking about like the wall and stuff like that. And glad I think that's interesting to hear you talk about the fact that depending on the shot, there's no set reference of, oh, the wall was exactly 75 feet. It was 75 feet in this photo, 100 feet in this photo. I think that's some people have to take into account, in that, when you're going off reference, and they're not all the same, you kind of split the difference.
Yeah, it is. And it's there's like shots at the front of the wall where when they built the set out of the quarry, they bolted onto some rock, and so their rock down at the front of at the base of the wall looks different to the bigature, and it looks different to the quarter scale and all that sort of thing. So it's there's like so many variations in these models that when they've got full size sets. Like there's one that another environment I'm currently working on, where I'm actually amazed at how close they've kept the bigature to the full size set. It's absolutely blown me away at the discrepancies. And it's like, if you're going to be a model aircraft, a rivet counter, a brick counter, it is a tough one. It's because there's nothing to say that they just use cinder blocks on set, and whereas in the bigature they were carving something in. So it's yeah, it's
you said on Helm's Deep that you sculpted it digitally. Are you doing that more and more now with things, with sculpting digitally versus sculpting by hand? Because I know obviously there's some photos and stuff of you doing sculpting by hand on some of the older collectibles. Are you finding you're doing more and more now digitally?
That started when I did Minas Tirith. I made all the little buildings digitally, because they, the scale of them was just easier for me to do. And like doing those buildings for me was because I used to do architecture 3D in there, so it was great to jump back into that and just whip out you're churning out like 3 or 4 different buildings a day, and so you can get this great range of them. So with Minas Tirith, I did that, but I always want to have a hand sculpted part in the environment. So that was then put onto all model made. So I was essentially dressing these little buildings into a model made base. Same with Helm's Deep. The castle is done, but I don't do any of the detail on the walls or anything like that. I mean, I do the bricks digitally, but then all the rest of it we hand finish. So all the cracks and all that sort of stuff, we hand finished that into the 3D prints. And Shanti Costa, he actually took care of most of that. So he was sitting there busy detailing, because you've got to clean up the 3D print, otherwise you get
Right. Yeah.
no matter how fine print lines. So instead of doing all your rock detail and then having to clean it up and then redo it, we just did a straight, essentially, imagine built out of Lego, and you got all your bricks, and then went in with our little ultrasonic knives and all the rest of it, and clay and whatever's required to just make it look a little bit more organic. And that's a process that I enjoy, because it's going to be a sad day for me when I can't get on the tools for an environment and it just gets spat out. Yeah, that's not what I want to do. That's not what I want people to collect, because it's, as someone who collects collectibles and builds models and all that, it's about the hand finished thing that I enjoy.
Right.
And even though, yes, it's, you're doing it on the computer, you're doing that work, there's something to me about, a collectible that has been hand worked. It's just, to me, there's just more meaning in it. And that said, all of our collectibles are, they're hand worked to the nth degree, no matter, how perfect they come to the printers, and that's just how fastidious we are. But it's just something I enjoy. So one of the techniques that we used on Minas Morgul, I think was the first time we did it, was we had we have a whole of silicon rock molds, and so I was doing thin castings of these really cool rocks, and I was using that to get really nice looking rocks. Because rocks actually kind of hard to sculpt in 3D. I mean, sorry, in 3D in clay, because it's there's so many fine details in them, and
Right.
they can look very droopy and all that sort of thing. And I was never quite happy with some of the previous rocks that I'd done. So I tried that on Minas Morgul, and I was really happy with the way I did that. It turned out. So then I used the same technique on Helm's Deep, and which was fun. So all the caves and that sort of thing, that's all, in the interior is hand sculpted, but then the main rocks on the front, that's using a lot of rock molds in combination with still some old-fashioned rock sculpting.
The stuff on the reverse side, did you do the glittering caves? Did you do that through the on the computer?
Or no, that's all clay.
That's
all. So when you turn it around, you've obviously got Theoden's Hall. I'll come back to that one actually. They've got Theoden's Hall, and then the stables down there. So that's the structures are digital, but then all the caves and all the rest of it are done just with clay, and just putting some of the floors in and building it up with rocks and all that sort of thing. So, and that's it, because I wanted to just still have that organic finish on the glittering caves, and it was actually a lot of fun to do it, because we had to, you've got like a lot of the stalactites coming down, so we had to have a plate of stalactites that went on so that we could mold it, and then just reminding me of with Theoden's Hall, that was a sort of quick little thing, was that we had the plans of the set of Theoden's Hall, and then when we put that into what we had for the rough set of the exteriors of Helm's Deep, it didn't quite match up, because you've got all the windows in the side, and so we had to, because we were doing the exterior and the interior, we kind of had to have them both match up. So that was one of the tricky things where we heart-ached a bit of like, do we make the hall smaller? But you can't make it smaller because it's got to be that big, and it actually aligned pretty well, which was just thumbs up to the guys who were doing the original design 20 something years ago. But that's like some of the things when you're doing the interior and exterior, is that often the exterior doesn't match up with the interior, and so it's it could be such a minor discrepancy, but when you're trying to be a stickler over some of the things, and you get these things thrown in, it really does it's like, come on guys. But no, it's really cool how and that's part of the fun of doing these things. It's just trying to sort out what's the fact from fiction, sort out the which one do we use, just in response to our, having 4 different preferences for the same thing. It's yeah.
Um,
So it's
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you go, you go.
So well, I'm gonna bounce to. I will stay with environments, talking kind of referencing back to where we're talking about making stuff bigger and older items versus newer items, and kind of having those changes and stuff. And obviously, one piece that was done a while back, I think this is obviously was one I think you guys did on your own, the prancing pony.
Hmm.
Obviously, that's a really tiny little environment. Um, are those kind of like are those environments that you think? And I'm just asking you your opinion. Are those environments that you think you guys might go back and touch upon again because obviously it was there was I mean I don't know how much different you could do the prancing pony for that matter,
Hmm. Yeah.
but um and do like again like with Bag End and Helm's Deep and stuff and do a slightly larger version where you can really show off some of the cool stuff that was around the prancing pony, maybe be able to do like when the door opens you can see inside the actual
Yeah.
do you, do those opportunities with like how you guys are doing rooms now on environments,
Hmm.
do you think that opens the door to go back and do like a larger version of the prancing pony where you could do like I said like to open the door maybe the back side of it or something you could see inside the and stuff does do I guess like I guess my question is a long story. Does the what you guys are doing now with having rooms and stuff, does that make going back and doing something with the Prancing Pony possible to have a slightly larger version? Or
I would love to. Yeah, and you have to keep in mind that there are new generations of fans and collectors
right,
coming through, and they don't necessarily want to have to go and find a 20-year-old piece on that's a grail on eBay for
right,
some ridiculous amount and then get angry at Weta and be like, well, we're not getting any of that money.
right,
It's that's uh but it's like I just want to build because I enjoy building the sets, so or building representations of the sets. And so I would, something like Prancing Pony, having the door open and, or at least the front room, visible, like we did with the Bag End, which was just so much fun to like, just seeing people like, oh, you looking through that door is just so cool. And I would love to. I really would love to do something like the Prancing Pony. Obviously, has you know, such a mystique about it. Such a prominent set piece
right.
where such a big thing happens, and I would love to do a bigger prancing pony. Would we get away with it? Well, would we be able to do it? I don't know. Is it because it's just a house, an old-fashioned Tudor style building? It's like, don't know. But, I think that's it. Like making the front door open, having like some sort of, maybe even some characters just slouched over the benches or something in there. Though they be small, just give it that sort of life. I'd love to do something like that. There's I mean, yeah, just looking at some of the old collectibles that we've got, there's ones which I love to do. It's like there's the classic Sandyman's Mole, which is in the conference room, and which is a beautiful, beautiful piece. But it's like, and it's got so much character. I'd love to just, do that one. And while the size is great, just make it a little bit bigger because it's,
Right.
it's just cram more detail in. And we've got Weathertop, there's just so many other environments that we've done which I'd love to just elaborate a bit.
Well, yeah. Weathertop was done. Well, Weathertop was done during the Sideshow Weta stuff, was it? Wasn't it? Yeah. So, I mean, that. I mean, that collectible really is like 20 plus years old. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, I have it, and I love it. It's wonderful. It's beautiful, but it's little. And
yeah,
it's so. It's to me with what you guys are doing now with the like I said with being able to open the doors and all these rooms that you guys can show off and stuff now. I mean, obviously, Weathertop is different, but I think there's ways to make it work. Sure,
yeah.
it would. I understand. Pardon me. The idea of doing some of these slightly larger scale with some of the that you guys can do now. Is I mean, it's no different. And I have, because I'm a huge fan of Balrog. Anybody watching this,
Yeah.
it's not like Balrog hasn't been done 47 different ways
Yeah.
between the Sideshow Weta line, what Sideshow did by themselves, and what you guys have done by yourselves. I mean, it's not like the Balrog hasn't been, touched upon in different ways. So I don't see where I would encourage you guys, especially on stuff like Pony, because environment I think also a little bit different. You're not redoing. And this was the argument I had with people about with in the Minas Tirith thread about being careful with obviously Minas Tirith has been reissued obviously it's an open edition. You're not redoing that piece. You're just reopening the edition on the open part of it. With like Prancing Pony, you can do it larger, door open, like you said, the guy hunched over, the bar, sit someplace, have, light working in here, the sign, maybe you could put on metal rings and you could tap the sign and it will kind of move. You could do things that make it different because that original, what's it go for, like $1,500 or something like that on the market? I mean, you can't expect people to pay that for something, and I'm not knocking. I don't have this. I don't have, but it's beautiful. But $1,500 for something that's like this.
Yeah. No, that's it, and it's of course double-edged sword. That those older ones, they were great sizes to go on the shelf, which is something I'm very conscious of. Is that
right?
Because I don't have the space to display it. I've got one collectible on display. That's right over there, and that's the Rocketeer and Betty from Mondo. Which is awesome, but that's the only collectible I've got in my entire house. All the rest of my stuff's in boxes in the garage, just because it's I've got two boys, and they're just tornadoes wrapped in hurricanes, and there's yeah, so it's that's the other thing he's conscious of, like, how much, people have only got so much space, and that's why those ones were so perfect. But that's the thing, is that being able to make them that bit bigger, which is great for the people that have that space, is a wonderful thing for us to do. And
right,
yeah, it's I'm open to exploring any of those. It's because with one of the other ones was we've got the Golden Hall. That's not it's
that's another one. Another one I would love to see you guys go back and do bigger, and because the original is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But it would be really cool to have a slightly larger version of it.
Yeah.
The techniques that can be done are so much different. The sculpting is better than it was 20 plus years ago. The paint is better than it was 20 plus years ago. The materials are better than it was. The things that you can do with the collectibles in general, not just the environment, but collectibles in general, is better than it was 20 years ago. And so I think, Golden Hall is another one. I would love to have you guys redo it. I think a bunch of people would do it for that matter.
No, it's I mean, it's I think the environments, as much as I love the what the guys do with their sculptures, and I'm blown away by what they do. It's I just enjoy environments, and it's just I guess it speaks to it's being a builder. It's something about having in the environments, these little houses, or that's something that really speaks to me. And so I'm open to doing it. Whether I can convince the other guys, the guys who make the decisions and that sort of thing, I can throw my 2 cents at them. But it's we're always working on environments at a time. It's not as quick as I would like because of my other job and where, but it's I appreciate the fact that I'm given the reins to actually work on these environments and that. So it's I would be so keen to explore the likes of redoing some of those older ones, slightly bigger, and it's really is a cool little side, you know.
Well, and like I said, with environments, I think if you do when you do them larger, there's enough things that you can do now with they're not. It's not like if you guys redid the original Balrog on your guys' own, you basically did it the same exact. Yeah, maybe the paint would be different, sculpt would be different. Maybe you use like the resin stuff that you guys used on the file.
Yeah.
But if it looked exactly the same, it's basically
Yes.
where you
Yeah.
it's not even having lights, electronics and stuff to it, make it different enough. Let me see here. Let me find another environment question since we've been. Um, uh, so obviously, okay. Um, another environment question. Uh, we didn't really get a lot of environments from the Hobbit trilogy, and obviously, the Hobbit stuff obviously struggled to sell maybe quite as well as the Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yeah.
Do you are there any like the question references like Goblin Town? Is that like a place that you guys maybe someday you might want to try and go tackle and um, with what you guys can do now with some of the cool stuff with some of the lights and how you can have like because there was like elevators and stuff that moved up and
Yeah.
down. Is Goblin Town something that is maybe more possible now than it was when the films came out because of the things that you can do now?
Technically, yes, it is more possible because we're using a lot more injection molding, which allows us to use different polyurethanes and that get so that like on spikes and that sort of thing, just that the bits that we know are going to catch on clothing or catch on cats and that sort of thing. That to make it just that little bit more flexible.
That sounds like personal experience right there.
No, but I know a lot of people. Cats tend to have adventurous little critters. But my cat, she's great. She just catches rats and gives them to us in the middle of the night. But the still alive, mind you. But it's definitely so something like that is like just in the last few years we've been working with some new partners for manufacturing in China, and the stuff that they're doing is just great. Like they've really got they're not just doing polystone out of silicon molds anymore like we used to have in the older sideshow Weta produced collectibles. It was more just that. Now we're where we can, we've got like metal swords and and all the rest of it on our collectibles, and that includes making bits that are fragile that a little bit more flexible, which is great. So it's in the case of Goblin Town, it definitely makes it a lot more feasible.
Nice.
That's one of those. Make Goblin Town.
Right, and that's the catch-22 part of it, is that because the Hobbit films aren't as popular as the Lord of the Rings films. But that was one of those places that you visit in those films that I always kind of thought would be neat to have. I'm speaking of environments. I mentioned this, one of the kind of I want a new Moria. I want a larger version of Moria where you can really experience like what it looked like there. Obviously, it's one of those, it's built in a mountain, and I love the original. I have it, but you have to look. It's well done, but you have to look basically down on top of it to really see anything. I wish I was larger cutout where you look at it from the side. You can see that great hall when Gandalf shows the light and everything. I mean, I will personally push right now. I want a larger area. Give me a larger area. That is definitely one of them.
I mean, that little one was great. It's like any collectible or environment is. I always want to be able to trace the journey. So that's why it's important. With Minas Tirith, you had to be able to get from the front gate to the top. Following the way that Gandalf went.
Right.
And so that's important things. It's to me, it's like, you can go through there, and that little door opens to there, and it goes through there. So that's why that environment was so cool, because you could trace the steps of the Fellowship, and that. But it's never say never. There's nothing in the plans just yet. that I know of. But yeah, that would, it's especially with having a little bit of light coming from the bottom of something with the Balrog, who knows? But yeah, it could be a fun little thing to make. Yeah.
So that's definitely that's a personal want of mine is a new, especially with the fact that you got all these environments that are being redone and made larger and
Yeah.
everything. The Moria sequence in Volcano, it's one of my, it's maybe my favorite segment, and especially in Fellowship, just
Yeah.
because of everything that happens. That was the part that when I saw the film, I was just like, okay, I'm in. That was the part for me. So I love that segment of the film. So yeah, a larger scale Moria with what you guys can do now, to me, would be really cool. And I
Yeah.
think you guys obviously, I think you guys could do it in a way now where you could kind of like retrace the journey, but it's not just a giant, you know,
Yeah.
brick
Absolutely.
cover.
Yeah, there's so much of those sort of things I'd love to explore. Yeah, it would be really cool. Now, Josh, unfortunately, I've just got a message. I'm going to have to go up in a few minutes and get the boys from the school fair.
Okay.
So I might have to cut this short now.
Oh, you're totally.
I'm totally cool to do a follow up.
Oh yeah,
Part two.
absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely love to have you back. I will ask you one more question before I let you go. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Which one of these two do I want to ask? Do you have a favorite collectible, and what makes it your favorite? We'll end on this. Do you have a favorite collectible, and what makes it your favorite?
That Weta have done?
That yeah, sure. Let's
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
put it that because
Actually,
we're more
mine-
Lord centric, so we'll keep it to that. If you
this is going to be tough. This is going to be tough because my favorite collectible that Weta have made is not a Lord of the Rings collectible.
okay.
It's actually the one that I love the most, and I'm really fortunate to have it just around the corner from, like in the hallway outside my office, is Gary's Tomb Lara Croft versus the Raptors.
Yeah.
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 I just love the way that he's got, the raptors are going around the tree, and it's sometimes when you do a lot of work on a collectible, it kind of breaks you a bit, and you're like, you get it, and you put it in a box and just get rid of it. But that one, I did a lot of work on that one with the base with Gary, and then just the engineering of getting her to. So you got the raptors just lock in, and Laura comes in, and just the swirling and the height of it. It's just such a gorgeous piece. I'm so glad that we got to make that one.
Are you a Tomb Raider game person, or is it just you love the piece?
I just love the piece. It just flows so well. It's telling a story. It's mid action, and it's just the way that the pieces, or it's one of those that I don't think that looking at it in a picture really does it justice. It's one of those. It's just so beautiful because the way when Gary sculpted it, everything's flowing. It's like this upward spiral, and it's that diameter, but it's like that tall. So it's just I just think it's a beautiful piece. And no, I mean the last time I played Tomb Raider was in the I don't know, it's the early 2000s or so. So I'm not going to go. I'm not like Ghostbusters, in which I'm like, pretty much I'm there. But as far as just a piece that we've made, it's just that's still one of my standouts that I think was, and I don't own it. I'm gutted, but I'm just happy that we've got I've got one outside.
Lord of the Rings.
Not a favorite Lord of the Rings piece.
And is it something that's currently out that you can talk about?
No, I'm just going through because so many of them is just I mean, I've got a lot of favorites, and like there's ones whenever I go into the main conference room at Weta, it's like
I spend a lot of
I
time.
still just love. I just adore the simplicity that Dan Cockerselt did on Isildur. He's standing there. That's just compositionally, it's once again, I'm all about the story too. It's like it's
Yeah.
telling the story. You've got the helmet, you've got the ring, you've got, and to me it's just such a. I love that piece. It's one that I look at all the time when I've done that.
It's easily a top 5 or 10 piece all time for me.
Yeah,
and it's really
yeah.
just. And then I
It's,
the other day, and it's, to put it with, yeah, that's enough.
yeah, and I mean, I'm still extremely proud of Minas Tirith. It's it's like I've got one in my office, but it's up on the shelf. But I went into the conference room the other day, and it's one down on the table, and I was like, yeah, I did good.
Well, you and I have talked at Comic Con, around the time when that was coming out and stuff, and I really that is my personal favorite environment you guys have ever done.
Yeah.
I think that's the best one you guys have ever done.
Yeah, no, I love it. But we've done so many. It's like just the Dead Marshes. Like last year, it was so cool seeing that all come together. And there was a moment where we were in my old office and we turned all the lights off, and we turned the lights on, and it was just like doors hitting the floors. You got all these people coming in for the final paint review, and we've got and it just was amazing. With all the flickering lights and little fires, and it's just like a lot of these pieces have special moments, even like down to the little Hobbit Holes. When you get them, and they're like, yeah, that's really cool. It's like and especially like I know them back to front because I sculpted it, but you get someone else going like, oh look, there's a thing. Oh look, there's a thing. It's like it's that a few octaves up, which is like pretty cool to hear. Whoa.
Well, I think that's one of the things like what Daniel and I talked about when he was on this last time, is that I think, and really you just said the same thing too. I think with talking about Isildur, I think it's one of those. The piece tells a story, and I think some of the best ones do tell a story.
Yeah.
Also, I think too, and I think for you, it's a little bit different. Like I was explaining to him, for me, when I step into my collection and I look at it, it's not just experiencing Middle Earth or knowing the people that actually made these collections, but there's also, like I told Daniel, those are films that every December when they came out, my mom and I went and saw those. That was our thing to do 20 years ago. So 100% get it. Well, I don't want to keep you any longer because obviously you got things you got to do. I definitely get you up on having you come back. We'll do some more environment talk because I think that's one of those areas that I think in some ways we haven't really talked a lot about. So definitely want to have you come back on. We'll talk about some of the other environments. Maybe by the next time we have you on, something will have been announced, and we can talk about the process, kind of like we did with Helm's Deep. Like, what was it like to do, whatever.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, we're working on a lot of really cool stuff at the moment. That I'm, obviously our crunch deadline is Comic Con.
Are you going to be able to make it to Comic Con this year?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything, yay or nay.
Okay.
I really hope that we're going to have some presence there.
It was very weird last year being there, and you guys, your booth. I walked by it. I think it was Dragon Ball Z or something. I'm just going,
yeah,
I don't like you guys. Go away.
Yeah, and I can say it was because I went up to we put out Unleashed in Auckland, and it was actually really cool being up there. It was like, I know it was it's not quite the massive Comic Con on that, and we're not jet lagged, but it was for us it was cool because we got such a good reaction from the guys, and it's on such a smaller scale, but it was cool. Chris had a ton of his swords there, and we had Sack busy painting there. I was busy working on Hobbit Hole number, can't remember, and it was a great little thing. So if we return to Comic Con, I hope we get to do more of that sort of stuff because it was really cool taking Weta Workshop on it like a road show. It was
Yeah. Well,
it was awesome.
I love it. You know, you guys are like, you know, as I told Daniel, you guys have always been really good to me. Always been very kind. You let me just talk your ears off. You don't you guys have come up to me and asked me, hey, what did you think of this? We want your opinion. Here's this, here's that. What do you think about this? It may be something that hasn't been announced yet. Hey, what do you think about this? It's so you guys always flatter me and are always very kind to me and you know always very kind to my dad when he makes his way through the
Oh yeah, it was great meeting your dad. Yeah.
you know you guys are I love you guys to death. Like I told Daniel, um, I do truly consider you guys friends. If you were next door and you needed sugar and you had some sugar, I'd give it to you. Heartbeat. Uh, but I again, I'll thank you one more time for joining us. Definitely gonna have you back. Um,
Yeah.
Trying to think of anything else. I don't. Jim, hopefully, we'll be back on the next episode. Hopefully, next time we have you, he can, because I'm sure he'll have some questions. But you know, until the next time, for all of you in the World Wide Web watching this, thank you for your support of this podcast, of the OneRing.net, of all that we do. Thank you for supporting the awesome folks at the workshop, because obviously without your guys' support, we wouldn't keep getting cool collectibles. I wouldn't be able to do stuff like this.
Yeah, that's
So
I feel really blessed to be doing what I do where I'm doing it. So you know, and it's everyone out there that makes it possible. It's the collectors that keep us making. That's
well,
the reality.
yeah, and I want people. That's one thing I try to mention as we close. As I said, I'll get ready to let people go here. Um, that I try to mention in the review stuff is that we need to push this around because you know you guys get to do cool stuff. You get to express your love that way, and we get to express you know our love for Middle Earth. So yeah, by all means, all of you watching, continue to push this stuff out. Continue to push other podcasts and reviews and stuff out there. Let folks know this cool stuff is out there. You know, I know money. I know money. Everybody's budgets is everybody's budgets. I'm not going to tell anybody ever how to spend their money, but if you got a couple extra dimes sticking around towards some cool collectibles, till the next time that I and Jim see you guys.
Yep.
Well, next time I see you guys for a review, which hopefully I'll have another one. Till next time, guys. Later.